Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Imagine a train, indistinguishable from thousands of others carrying freight across a country. But this train isn't carrying grain or consumer goods. It's carrying a nuclear-tipped intercontinental ballistic missile ready to launch at a moment's notice. These are the, quote, Iron Dragons of modern warfare, a Cold War concept that is making a dramatic comeback and reshaping strategic deterrence as we know it. Today, we're delving into the past, present, and future of the rail-based mobile missile launcher. The entire idea of a mobile missile is born from one simple, terrifying question: how do you make sure you can strike back after being hit by a nuclear attack? During the Cold War, both the US and the Soviet Union knew their hardened stationary missile silos were prime targets. If an enemy could take them all out in a surprise first strike, the war would be over before it began. This led to the nuclear triad: bombers in the air, submarines in the sea, and land-based missiles. But to make the land-based missiles survivable, they had to move. While trucks were an option, the sheer size of national railway networks presented a unique opportunity for concealment and mobility. The Soviet Union was the first to master this, operationally deploying a rail-based ICBM system in the 1980s. It was called the RT-23 Molodets, which means fine fellow in Russian. NATO gave it a more menacing name, the SS-24 Scalpel. These weapons were hidden inside specialized trains, officially called BZHRKs, or Combat Railway Missile Complexes. To any spy satellite or intelligence analyst, they were designed to look like ordinary refrigerator or passenger trains. Each train was a self-contained unit with a command post, crew quarters, and 3 launch cars, each carrying a single RT-23 missile. And the RT-23 was no small threat. It was a solid propellant ICBM that could carry up to 10 independently targetable nuclear warheads. When tensions rose, these trains would leave their bases and melt into the vast Soviet rail system, a network with countless tunnels and remote lines, making them nearly impossible to track. If a nuclear war began, any surviving trains could stop almost anywhere on the tracks and unleash a devastating retaliatory strike, but they weren't perfect. The immense weight of the missile cars damaged the tracks, and maintaining such complex systems on the move was a logistical nightmare. After the Cold War, arms reduction treaties led to their gradual retirement. Not to be outdone, the United States developed its own version, the Peacekeeper Rail Garrison. The plan was to put 50 of the powerful Peacekeeper ICBMs, each also carrying up to 10 warheads, onto 25 specially designed trains. The concept was identical to the Soviet BZHRK. In a crisis, the trains would disperse from secure bases and hide among America's commercial rail traffic, concealed within cars that looked like standard boxcars. A prototype was even built and tested. But the project's timing was its undoing. The Cold War ended. The threat of a massive nuclear exchange seemed to fade, and in 1991, the Peacekeeper Rail Garrison was canceled as part of defense cutbacks. The missiles themselves were just placed in existing stationary silos instead. For a while, it seemed the age of the nuclear train was over. But it wasn't. In recent years, a shifting global security landscape has brought this technology roaring back. Russia, in the 2010s, began developing a successor to the Molodets, codenamed Barguzin. This was meant to be a next-generation system, lighter and more advanced, capable of fitting inside a standard-sized railway car and carrying up to 6 of their modern -24 rupees Yars ICBMs. This was a direct response to the US developing a global missile defense system, which Russia saw as a threat to its ability to strike back. By reviving the nuclear train, Russia aimed to guarantee its ICBMs could survive a first strike. However, the project has reportedly faced funding issues, and its current status is unclear. Meanwhile, another global power with an enormous rail network has been quietly working on its own version. In 2016, China reportedly tested its most powerful ICBM, the DF-41, from a rail-based launcher. With a range capable of hitting the entire United States, putting the DF-41 on a train would massively boost the survivability of China's nuclear arsenal. The country's ever-expanding high-speed rail network, which includes thousands of kilometers of tunnels through mountains, provides the perfect hiding ground. This complicates any enemy's calculations for a successful first strike, thereby reinforcing China's deterrent. Even North Korea has entered the game. In 2021, it announced the successful launch of a ballistic missile from what it called a railway-borne missile system. While the missiles were short-range, the test signaled a clear ambition to make its nuclear forces more survivable. For a country with mountainous terrain and an extensive, if old, rail network, it's a logical move. It allows them to disperse their limited missile forces, making them harder to find and destroy. Experts question the system's true viability given North Korea's aging infrastructure, but even a rudimentary capability adds a new layer of unpredictability to the region. And most recently, India made a landmark achievement, successfully testing its new generation Agni Prime ballistic missile from a rail-based mobile launcher. This test immediately propelled India into the very exclusive club of nations with this capability. The Agni Prime is a nuclear-capable medium-range missile. With one of the world's largest railway networks, India can now disperse these missiles across the entire country, hiding them in tunnels and launching from remote locations with very little warning, providing a highly credible second strike capability. So why the renewed interest? It comes down to a clear-eyed look at the pros and cons. The primary advantage is undeniable: enhanced survivability. A missile on a train is infinitely harder to target than a missile in a hole in the ground. This strengthens deterrence by ensuring you can always hit back. Second is concealment. Disguised as regular trains, they can blend in with civilian traffic, using tunnels and remote areas to hide from prying satellites. Third is flexibility. They can be moved quickly across a country in a crisis and can launch from a huge number of pre-surveyed locations. And finally, for countries that already have a massive rail network, it can be a cost-effective way to build a survivable deterrent compared to, say, building a fleet of nuclear submarines. But there are significant disadvantages. The biggest is their complete reliance on the rails. Sabotage a key bridge or section of track, and your multi-billion-dollar missile train is a sitting duck. Security is another huge challenge. How do you protect a nuclear weapon as it travels through populated areas and across thousands of kilometers of track? The logistics are also incredibly complex, from maintaining the missile systems on the move to ensuring their stability. And while rail networks are vast, they are also finite. A determined adversary with advanced surveillance could potentially monitor key junctions and tunnels to try and predict a train's location, turning concealment into a high-stakes game of cat and mouse. The engineering behind these Iron Dragons is nothing short of incredible. The launch car isn't just a boxcar with a missile in it. It's a heavily reinforced fortress on wheels, designed to absorb the immense forces of a launch. The chassis and axles have to distribute the enormous weight to avoid destroying the tracks. The launch mechanism itself is a marvel. Some use a cold launch, where a gas generator ejects the missile from its canister before the main engine ignites. Others use a hot launch, where the engine fires inside the launch tube, requiring complex systems to vent the superheated exhaust away from the train. Connecting it all is a sophisticated and hardened command, control, and communications system, or C3. The command car is a mobile operations center, receiving encrypted launch orders and constantly tracking the train's precise location using GPS and inertial navigation to ensure the missile hits its target, even after traveling hundreds of kilometers on rails. Looking ahead, this technology will only evolve. The next logical step could be integrating hypersonic missiles onto these rail platforms. A weapon that combines the survivability of a mobile launcher with the extreme speed and maneuverability of a hypersonic glide vehicle would be a nightmare for any missile defense system. This will also intensify the surveillance versus counter-surveillance battle. As satellites and AI get better at spotting anomalies, nations will invest more in advanced camouflage, decoy trains, and electronic warfare to keep their Iron Dragons hidden. The return of the Rail Mobile Missile Launcher is a powerful reminder that in the world of nuclear strategy, old ideas never truly die. They just get re-engineered for a new era. The fundamental logic of mobility as the key to survival is as relevant today as it was at the height of the Cold War. As major powers like India, China, and Russia perfect this technology, and others like North Korea try to develop it, the global strategic chessboard becomes more complex and unpredictable. The humble railway, a symbol of industrial progress, is once again being forged into an instrument of immense military power. The Iron Dragons are on the move, and the world is right to take notice.